What is up, everybody? Oh, man, you guys are my good luck charm. It's another elusive, jumping big bay pickerel. Hold on a second. Let me get this thing taken care of. Well, all right, so thanks for joining me. Thanks for being my good luck charm and having me catch a fish right there. It's been slow this morning. Today's Wednesday. It's a little bit warmer than it was Sunday and Monday morning. Not a touch. Or not much. I'm fishing the hammer rig again. I've only fished the hammer rig again. Today is day 3 for me, so I fished Sunday, Monday, and today's Wednesday. Pickerel love this rig. So I started out with copper, coppery orange, running live crawlers on it. First cast of the morning, right in front of Big Bay Marina, I had a pickerel. And then I went an extremely long stretch of time, and I caught another pickerel. And now I've went another real long stretch of time, because it's 8 o'clock right now. I got out here at 6, a few minutes after 6. So I've been fishing almost 2 hours, and that was my third bite. I've fished 3 different weed beds in the greater Big Bay, outer Big Bay area. Then I went to so I caught one on copper first cast. Then I went to black prism tape with black beads. That caught one, also with a crawler on it. And I just switched back to my chartreuse perch, and I'm digging around in my box for a plastic, and I found this little straight tail minnow bait. I mean, you could put it on a jig, you could put it on a drop shot rig, you could do whatever you want with it. It's got a nice little foil flash inside it, molded inside. It's Lunker Hunt, one of their bento baits. That pickerel liked it. I don't know that pickerel are terribly discerning fish, you know. Like a bluefish, you could throw a crushed up beer can out there with a hook on it and they'd eat it. But yeah, at least we're getting some action. I like I say, I've only had 3 bites all morning, and you just saw number 3. You know, I think it's funny. This weather has been up and down, up and down, up and down. Last week it was beautiful. It felt like full-blown summer. I was wearing shorts again every day. And this week I went right back to wearing pants. You know, it's supposed to be 80 tomorrow, and then 70 on Friday, and then 70 on Saturday, and 71 on Sunday, and then 89 on Monday. You know, and then 70, and then 90. So go figure, you know, and that kind of up and down. Now, listen, people catch fish every day in all situations. Nothing's ever any one thing all the time. It just isn't. I have been doing this now for 3 days because I want to, and because it's something that I told myself at the beginning of the year and over the winter, especially when Brian and I were doing that seminar, Brian Hammond, B Hammer Tackle, that I wanted to do more of it this year and have a real solid handle on exactly what, where, and how I want to do it. Now, I've only caught one walleye in 3 days on this presentation. And again, two things for me. I don't know if... My first thought is with this off weather, and if they're off, these walleyes, especially in the weed beds, they're just going to sit there and watch it go over their head. The other fish, pickerel especially, are so opportunistic that I don't think it matters to them. Now, we didn't catch any bass, Paul and I, on Monday, and I haven't caught any today. And they'll usually bite right through a cold front or any kind of a front. But we've had low gray skies now for 4 days. Who knows? Somebody else could comment on here and say, oh, we crushed them on the hammer harness this morning, you know, wherever. Could very well be. I'm in weed beds that just aren't holding many walleyes. I don't know. No one knows. You know, the only way you know in these weed beds is to catch them. Oh, man. Oh! He jumped. You didn't see it. I did. That was a smallmouth, and he freight trained it. He heard me talking about bass, and he said, well, I'm going to show up for my species. Man, did he freight train that thing. Oh. Oh, man. Ripped its poor little eyeball right out. Big meanie. That was awesome. I love fishing on camera with you guys. I love it. You never know what's going to happen. You never, ever know. Oh, it was fun. I wish he'd have stayed buttoned. But again, so okay, there's the bass. A couple pickerel and a bass. Okay, great. Listen, you don't have to go 500 yards, if that, outside this weed line, and I guarantee you could jig walleyes. And you probably could in these weed beds. You know, it's funny. For me, you know, I spent all last summer snap jigging, aggressively snap jigging, bucktails, swim baits, shiver minnows, and super shallow in 5 to 10 foot of water in the weeds. Believe me, there's a part of me that wants to put this rod down and pick up my jigging stick and start snapping through these weeds. And now maybe that would trigger those walleyes that I think are laying down low in these weeds right now, because we just don't have favorable conditions for them. That sounds like an excuse as soon as it comes out of my mouth, but I do believe it's true. You know, listen, fishing's fishing. I've said that for 5 years now since you guys have known me. And when one person struggles, another person gets them, especially on this lake. There's so many different places, so many different ways, so many different angles that it really does lend itself to, you know, right spot, right time kind of thing. But it's been you know, really it's been an extremely enjoyable couple days for me. I've just told myself that I'm doing it no matter what. And there's a certain, and I personally say it all the time. There is, so all the years that I guided, when you're guiding, it's much different. For those of you that are guides out there watching me, you know. For those of you that aren't and have always thought about it, guiding somebody is much different than going fishing with them or going fishing by yourself. Because now fishing by yourself, a lot of times for me is experimentation time. It's how can I, you know, will this work? Will that work? What about this spot? You know, what about this species doing this thing? You know, And I get wrapped up in that sometimes. I mean, I've got enough stuff in this boat that I could do 50 different things in 50 different places on this lake alone. And so a couple times in these last 3 days, I've thought to myself, there's probably a better way to skin this cat. But I've stuck with it because I'm only interested right now, this very second. I don't know how long this will last. Come the weekend when I have a little bit more time, because I got to get out of here and get to work. Come this weekend, I might go exploring some other weed beds and get up on some of these main lake reefs where they've got weeds up on the top or around the top and start looking a little more. I've been cherry picking close to the west end because, it's Monday through Friday. I got to go to work. And in a couple hour trip, this is going to end up being about a 2-hour trip. You really got to land right on them for the most part, and you got to have a program that can bail them quick if you're going to really do it. Now, in the old days, 5 years ago, when I started with my old boat, and I was working more, let's say, than I am now. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but I was a little more tied to being on the job by 8:30. So I'd come out here and I'd fish 45 to 90 minutes. And like I say, you got to be on them fast, and you got to be prepared. And if you're doing it with customers, you wouldn't be that short of time. But like the guys tonight going to fish Walleye Wednesday, it's a 3-hour derby. That is not a lot of time. You better have a solid plan in place before you blast off. And you better be going to a spot that you have really, really high level of confidence that they're there. And then that plan will include, and I mean, we could do some conversations with the guys from Walleye Wednesday that are out there. A 3-hour derby, I don't care if it's first light or last light, is no joke. You don't have time to run all over the place like an 8-hour tournament day or a walleye fest where we got 36 hours to fish. 2 or 3 hour derbies, man, you got to be on them fast. And that's fascinating stuff, and coming out here in the morning, for me, this has been a real joy these last 3 days doing this, because I've thought about it, but I haven't allowed myself to go and change up, because I want to get this nailed down for customers, for taking people out, for having it in my back pocket, and now, will I always go into the weed beds and only throw a harness? No. But if I had multiple guys, I bet you that I would have a guy or two throwing a harness and somebody jigging too. This also happens. A lot of hinge points in this system, and learning how to cast it effectively is key. But even with that being said, you still get twist. You get a lot of line twist. And like I said the other day, I've got a swivel there. There's a swivel there. There's a swivel there. And there's a swivel on the rig. And you need, I'll be honest with you, you need all of those twist mitigation points to make this thing run smoothly. Another thing I do, you just saw me do it, is I'm watching as I cast that rig out, and I catch it just like I catch my blade bait, or I stop my line, and it lets that harness lay out flat. Hey now, Rogue Wave. and it allows that by stopping it in midair, it flops it over and hits the water like this, and it's ready to roll. Then you can count it down, whatever. But you got a better, let's just say you got a better starting point here to start retrieving. All right, let's do last cast because I got to get out of here. 8:15. Well, that was the last cast, but it only went a foot. It's about how far I drive it when I'm playing golf. It's funny, I'm looking at the stack at 9 Mile, and it's pinned over out of the northwest. Yet down here, you got just a little bit of an east wind blowing. Barely. I don't know if you can see my tip there. I wanted to show you. You can feel that. I mean, you will constantly feel that weight and that hardness coming through those weeds. It bumps up against them, but it's well, that smallmouth that you guys saw, he just ripped it. You know, you can't mistake that bite. But even with all of the stuff you're hitting and coming in contact with, it doesn't take but one bite before you're like, okay, that's what it feels like. It's much sharper than a weed, and it pulls back. Now, some of these weeds, the way you come into them, they can feel funny, you know. And when you hook a fish down there in those weeds, you got to set the hook pretty good. I mean, I've had multiple fish over this 3-day span that I had on, up and running, and they got down in the stuff and somehow got that hook out of their mouth. Oh, I just swallowed a bug. I just ate a bug. That was supposed to be my last cast. This is my last cast. I'd rather fish with you guys all day than go to work. I was watching a YouTuber last night. I watch YBS Youngbloods. He's a guy out of Australia. And I watched the videos a couple years ago when he hit 2 million subscribers. And it was great. It was emotional. He was pretty cool. I do watch his stuff a lot. Boy, he's got the setup. He's in Australia. It almost looks like they're on a private beach half the time. I didn't know Australia's an island. I didn't know there were that many other islands around Australia. He's always out on these deserted, uninhabited islands off the coast somewhere of Australia. And it's just amazing. The sea, the ocean, the amount of life in it, absolutely phenomenally incredible. I love watching it. But he was talking about 2 million subscribers. I can imagine. I would like to imagine. I'm struggling to hit 5,000 here. I say struggling. I'm not struggling. But that's the goal. You know, the goal is to spread the word. Hold on. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Look what I did. Look what I did. And, you know, one thing I'll say is don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to retie these rigs. I know Brian would probably like you to buy new ones, but on the same hand, Brian is one of those guys that would tell you to retie it. You know, because I'm pretty shredded up right now. And you can see, I don't know if you can see that, you can see all the nicks in that line. Right there. Like this one needs to be retied, big time. I believe Brian uses 20-pound fluorocarbon. That's what I retie rigs with. And I just take his stuff off there, use it as a guide to measure it, and retie it. I'm a little deep here. I've said last cast 3 times. I don't really want to go to work. I'd like to stay fishing. I started talking about Youngbloods yesterday because, like he said yesterday, he goes, when I started out, it was just me and one GoPro, and he'd go do a couple things, and people liked it. People liked him. He's got a very outgoing personality. He's an easy guy to like. He's very excited. Younger guy, but he's got his dad with him. He's got his buddies with him. They're spear fishing. They're regular fishing. They're diving. They're catching giant rock lobsters that must be 15 pounds. I swear to God, they're enormous. These huge freaking crayfish. Cooking and eating all the stuff on the beach and on his boat. And he acknowledged it yesterday. He goes, again, this video is a little older. It's when he hit 2 million. I think he's up to like 4 or 5 million subscribers now. Anyway, he said, before, it's about you. He said, it's about you, the viewer. It's about you, the fan, whatever you want to call it. And boy, he couldn't been more right. I started out with my Gramps' old boat, in makeshift rods like most everybody else that I put together over a course of my lifetime, and I caught plenty of fish in those days. Yeah, do I have much nicer equipment now? You bet I do. I've worked very hard for it, and I'm very proud of it. And all of my business relationships with my sponsors and stuff like that, whether it be for Walleye Fest or Awakening Angler, extremely proud of it. But it really does come back for me as well to you. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy these moments. I enjoy teaching, and fishing is the subject I teach. And it has nothing to do with me trying to say to you, I'm the best, you got to do it my way. I simply share with you what does work for me and what my theories are and what I think. Everybody, and my opinion is, quite honestly, in fishing, which is purely theoretical in all aspects, there's nobody that can tell you there's only one way to do something. Because if they do tell you that, I'd stop listening. Because I don't believe that there's always just one way to do things. And the very technique I'm fishing right now is proof of that. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, even still today, most people never fish for walleyes purposely in the weeds. I don't know if they don't think they live here, if they don't know how. Walleyes in the weeds, even though we all know about it now, so to speak, that doesn't mean it's universally accepted or everybody does it. And showing those kind of things and just sharing what I do on a daily basis. I enjoy that, and will I ever make a full-time living out of fishing again? I don't know. Well, there's one. Another pickerel. I watched him right down there. I watched him eat it. I saw his mouth open up. I watched his mouth open up and eat it. That's pretty cool. All right. Hold on. All right. Boy, got my glasses all wet. All right, that'll actually be my last cast. It's a good way to end it, out on a high note, as George Costanza would say. All right, everybody. Have a fantastic hump day. I hope you're the humper instead of the humpy, and I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Keep your tip up.